What was that?
That sounds like a Grant.
Sounded like it was going out. I think that was probably Tad. Oh yeah, it's Tad.
Oh.
Well, that's a pretty good start to the video. Tad doesn't even know that that I caught that, but that was my business partner, Tad, if you guys didn't know. But welcome back to the channel, and I'm actually, finally, gonna show you guys some more in-depth of what we have going on with the Steve and Val Morris 25.3 chassis Camaro. So, it's been due for an update. We've been working on some little stuff here and there, which I'm gonna show you and show you what we've got left before we can get this thing apart and off to powder coat. But yeah, we've got a lot of updates on it. There was a stretch when we were originally building this car for the original owner where we didn't really do too many videos because we were just working on getting stuff done. But that's about to change, and we're gonna bring you guys along for the ride while we are building a killer drag and drive Camaro for Steve Morris and his wife Val. So let's get to it. All right, well, while you're here, and if you want to follow along with the build on the Camaro, please subscribe to the channel. Give us a like and a comment. Let us know some of the things you would like to see. You guys may have seen on Steve's channel, he's gonna build a billet SML for this thing. I actually need to talk to him about that and see if it's already in progress, just to figure out the timeline of us building this, because hopefully before too much longer, maybe a month-ish. I know we've got some events coming up. I'll be in Charlotte this weekend, and then we have Indy with Cletus and Cars next weekend, and the Indy 800, where I am the defending winner of the Indy 800, and hopefully we can do well again at that race. We'll have to see. And yes, I am still working on my Freedom 500 edit. That one just is taking me a while. But enough excuses, got other stuff to do off camera. Those guys are over there making noise.
Yeah, we just make noise like this, pretend like we're working. Yeah.
Ah, it does. Well, anyways, you can see this car has lots and lots and lots and lots of bars in it. And actually, let's go around to the other side. So this car is built, the chassis is built to be 25.3 SFI spec, which will make it legal to go as fast as 650 in the quarter mile at up to 3,600 pounds. But if it is less than 3,200 pounds, it will dual certify to 25.2, and that spec is good to 6 flat. And as you guys can understand, Steve builds some nasty stuff. It's got a pretty good chance of actually using up all of that chassis cert. So it's pretty good that he ended up with this thing. And yeah, you can see it's got lots and lots of bars in it. That's my interior light. Obviously that's not the dome light for the car, but all the different roof gusseting and the X's. And we did sheet metal for the floors, as well as this back panel here. And then from here rearward is all going to be carbon. So down there is the carbon fiber tubs that we have started fitting. The strips here are where there's going to be carbon fiber panels that bolt in different spots. This strip here is for the inside of the tub to mount to. And it's going to be pretty crazy looking all back there. And we're excited to be able to put this thing together to finish it to its completion. And I'll show you the list we've got over here. So this is going to be what we've got to do before we get to powder coat. So brake line tabs, which I've already done the rear one. Got to mount the rear fuel cell. Got to do the battery mount. Got to do the mount for the air pump for the for the shifter and parachutes and et cetera, et cetera. mounts for the passenger seat, which there's not going to be a water tank now because Steve is going with methanol for his second fuel system. Weld the brackets for the shift and shoot solenoid. Build the steering column, which we can actually do that now that I have another piece over there that I'm about to show you. Mount the Holley dash, mount the fiberglass dash, switch panel mount, throttle pedal, window nets, parachute release handle, wheel tubs. This is in progress, and I'm about to show you that. The side sills, parachute anchor tube. Once we pull the body off, I've got to go over all the welds where like the bars fit so tight to the roof. For example, like the top side of this bar is not welded. Top side of this bar is not welded. And a lot of the other bars, like you can maybe see down in this joint right here, not quite welded. Now I could get in there and weld that one with the body on, but when I know the body's coming off, I'm just gonna leave it to where it's really easy to do when the body is up in the air and the frame is down on the ground. You can see the car has a carbon fiber tunnel, which is pretty sweet. And we had started on some of the wiring, so you can see some of the holes, as well as these bars here are for the electronics. There's a couple of panels that bolt in there, and then the round hole in the firewall right there is for a quick release. So it'll be a bulkhead connector, and then on the engine side it'll just twist and the whole engine harness will go with it, or at least the sensors. So that'll be mostly sensors, and I forget what all else is going through there. We've got it all mapped out, and then these holes down here are for the EGTs. The top holes are for the 2 injector sets, so there's a bulkhead there that's actually a Deutsch connector. Got to work through all of that. This mount right here is for the VPS G meter, which is a multi-axis, very fancy G meter, which this will actually be the first one we've used, but I've seen some other guys using them and I'm excited to see all of that. As you may have heard me mention, for those of you that are new to this project and this build, the body will actually be removable. I mean, it's going to take some work because there is a lot of bolts that bolt this thing together. But down here, we have a large plate that has some threaded inserts to it. And then the roll cage has a matching plate that maybe you can see, but there's bolts down there. There's bolts there. There's bolts under the floor. There's a bolt, so you can see the aluminum spacer right there. So there's a bolt that comes in through from the back side through this plate and ties the cage to the, you know, the A-pillar frame there and the upper door frame. There's also, you can see the bolts right there. That is where it unbolts from the firewall. And then on the front side is a continuation of that. And it, which maybe, yeah, I can just do that. So there's the continuation of that bar out to the shock tower. Up here in the roof is a bolt on each side. Same thing back here, a couple of bolts there. And right now we are actually working on these panels. So this will weld to the tube, just like we've done here with the silicon bronze. And then out on the outside at the pinch weld, it's gonna have all the bolts in it. And these bolts are just, you know, for the mock-up stage. You kind of see how it's all gonna work out. We will eventually do like a stainless steel button head bolt or something like that with a nylock to pinch all those together. And yeah, you can kind of see on the underside how everything ties together with the plates there, and then that is tied to the roll cage, and that is where our K-member bolts. And you can see how the tube goes up and all the way through. For every K-member bolt, there's a tab that comes off, and I really hope it fits, but we're gonna find out later because the K-member just came in today. So up there above the tube, they're not interlocking, but there's a bolt that goes through a tab on the body, a tab on the tube, and then also the bolt goes through the mid plate. So you can see lots and lots of bars under here. Yeah, she got a little rusty from, you know, Florida things. But this will all get powder coated. You can see the bottom side of the brake master cylinder mount. It's got multiple holes in it so it can be moved forwards and backwards for the different drivers that are going to be driving this car, which is probably going to include Steve and Kyle and Val. So back here we've got to do the parachute anchor, which we started on already. This will have a tube that just comes out, and then it's going to get a bolt for the actual dual parachute mounts, and then we're going to tie to here to give it some support. Like there'll be some tabs sticking off here for a bar that'll come down off of the hitch so that it can handle the hitch weight. Because if you think about going down the road and the hitch constantly working on just trying to break that tube off, so we're going to try to avoid all that. But one thing we're going to do to make this car serviceable and adjustable in the future is we have a bag of threaded inserts that we made. We just took weld nuts that we purchased and machined half of a step off of them, and we're going to weld them into the chassis. So then we have a threaded insert, and there will be these two here. This is for the throttle pedal, and then we will be able to build a throttle pedal mount that goes on top of it. Maybe we put something out here, and then the pedal mount ends up with like a heel cup in it or something. But it'll be adjustable just kind of in the same fashion that the brake master cylinder. You can see it's got a dual master cylinder, so we've got one for the front, one for the rear, or however we decide to plumb it. But this gives us the ability to truly adjust the brake bias by adjusting the balance bar right here. That's actually something that kind of comes from some of my road racing experience, being able to actually truly balance the braking. You know, you got much smaller tires on the front, even though they still do a good percentage of the braking, because when you're on the brakes, there's the most weight on the front tires. So we'll be able to really dial that in and try to make the car work really well, or as best as possible on the brakes. So we've got some stuff. The seat is mounted to, can't really see it right now, but there's welded threaded inserts that go through the floor to some of the chassis bars, and then they're also welded to the floor on the top side. And we've got it where there's adjustments there, and we want to tie, you can see how this has, well, yeah, you can kind of see the seat moving. While I prefer Racetech seats for stuff that is this fast, this is what we've got, this is what we're working with. So to make it where we can move the bottom of the seat and still tie to the top of the seat, we're going to put some threaded inserts under this bar here, and then we will make some kind of bar that will, you know, it'll bolt there, and then we'll make it where it bolts to here or something like that. And then that will give a lot of strength in the halo there, because you don't want this thing flexing and letting you move around in the car. If you ever need to rely on the seat, kind of catch where I'm going with that. And that's something that us car builders have to think about, unfortunately, is the potential of the car to crash. Because if you have a bunch of sharp edges, or your seat's not mounted well, or anything that can potentially go bad, you may end up moving around in the car. You know, your seat belts aren't anchored well, or something. You have to think about a lot of stuff. Stuff coming loose in the car and flying around and hitting you. You don't want to have any of that. So we're going to try and make sure that we make this thing as absolutely safe as possible as we can. And then that way you can feel confident in going really fast in a car like this. And kind of along the same lines as some of our road race stuff, where driver comfort is actually a very, very important factor to how you feel in pushing the car to its limit, the limit of the tires, limit of the track. All of that stuff factors into trying to go fast. So one of the things we've actually gotten done since Steve and Val was here, aside from some of the side sill and the VPS mount and machining the threaded inserts and whatnot, we went ahead and fully assembled the rear end housing. And you can see it's got some TBM brakes on it there. It's got a strange third member with, I believe, a 340 rear gear. We did some nice ARP studs to hold all that in there. This is TRZ Motorsports' billet faced plate housing. And you can see all of this is one piece of machine billet, and then they actually clamp around. There's another piece that like clamps around this axle tube in here, which you can't see now because it's fully assembled, but it's a super trick piece. And I have a non-floater housing for the Cutlass that I need to sell, and it's a nice piece. It's built with 40 spline axles and pretty crazy stuff, but I want to go ahead and do one of these billet faced housings for mine along with the floater kit, because I'm kind of one of those people that really only likes to build things once if I can swing it financially, which is maybe one of the reasons why that has taken me so long. But quite a few people I've seen ask about what is a floater housing. Well, for one, that's a floater axle, so you can see it's splined on both ends and it goes in there. So right now the rear end is basically one wheel drive, so that axle is in over there and it is still tied to the pinion, you know, through the ring and pinion and the spool and all that stuff. So it's kind of nice with these, like say you're pushing the car around the shop, and if any of you have pushed a car with a welded differential or a spool, you know that they don't turn very well. So you take these 3 bolts out and now it spins freely so that it can be pushed around the shop. Now that's not the reason to have this. The reason is if you break this in the middle, the wheel doesn't fly off, because the wheel is bolted to these 5/8 drive studs. And if you guys didn't know, it's always good to have your wheels attached to your car. You know, that's a tip. That's today's tech tip for everybody. Obviously, you guys know I'm joking, but this doesn't prevent all of the problems, because if you imagine if you're under power and you break an axle, whichever axle is being driven is going to try and, you know, be pushing forward still, so it can turn the car sideways. So, but I would still argue that that is a safer option than a wheel completely flying off and destroying the, you know, the back of the car with the quarter panel. And there's some videos on the internet of that happening. So, you know, it's kind of one thing that I really like the idea of the floater housings. Now they are required past a certain ET and speed level. I don't remember what that is. I want to say it's 215 miles an hour in the quarter mile, something like that. Which, I mean, that's a long way off for the Cutlass, but not a long way off for this. If you guys have seen some of the stuff that Steve has built, like he's got the engine that he built in Tom Bailey's car, and that thing's been 257 miles an hour in the quarter mile. I think Steve's wagon has been 185-ish in the 8th mile. So you figure pretty much most fast cars gain at least 45 miles an hour from the 8th mile to the quarter mile. Do the math. That's 220, 25 miles an hour. So let's show you guys how this gets reassembled. I'm gonna set up the tripod here. Yeah, okay. So, one-wheel drive. Now we'll take and put this huge 40 spline 300M axle in. And the easiest way to do it is to actually slide a long extension down through it. Get the axle aligned on the spool. Make me look like a, oh, there it is. So now that it's started in the spool, all right. Now it's all tied together. And to hold it in, we just have these three little bolts. And actually I need to put some Loctite on these. And then tighten them up. So, did I put the Loctite up? I think I did. Alright, so I'm back with a little bit of Loctite. Just a little dab. No need to go crazy. Little dab will do ya. Alright, snug all of these. So what I didn't really explain too well is there is an outer bearing and an inner bearing, and then there is a large nut that goes over the inner part of the housing end. And that threads on and sets the tension for, you know, this actual hub. So it makes it to where this hub always stays attached to the housing. Give these a good bump. And that's that. She is now tightened up and ready to go into the car. But we're not exactly worried about putting that in just yet because we got to get the car to powder coat first. So one of the things that I needed before I took the car to powder coat was the front K-member. This just came in today, so I'm going to get it unpackaged because I'm excited to see it. Ordered this through our buddies at TRZ. They are racecraft dealers. So went ahead and ordered that from them because I try to order from my friends in the industry. I'm not a dealer for racecraft, but they are. So ordered from them. Same price as if I had ordered it direct from racecraft, and then the guys at TRZ get to make a few bucks for all the times I call and bug them relentlessly about silly things. So same way you guys can call us when you buy products from us. We'll give you as much tech advice as we can. And we sell all kinds of stuff like Holley and all of the different Holley brands. And you guys know we're big on Holley EFI, but we do stuff with TRZ Motorsports and AFCO Shocks and all kinds of different people that are on the wall up there. So I'm gonna get to unpackaging this K-member, see what it looks like, as well as the steering rack that's on the top of the box there. And then we'll look at that, and I don't know if I'll try to bolt it in. I might save that till tomorrow. We'll see. All right, well, one more thing off the list. Done. So, just all this other stuff. Yeah. And that's just before we take it to powder coat. And then there's all this stuff and more. Because as you may have seen in the video, got all of the side sill filler plates done. I don't know if that light makes it better or worse. So yeah, got these filled in. There's actually a piece that's going to go in here for the to support this, you know, because this is where you're going to be stepping in and out of the car. Just a sheet metal piece to close that off, and so it won't have these holes available to get junk in the car. But once we get that welded in and then we put the body back on, we'll just come in with a little bit of seam sealer or even just some silicone and fill in that gap right there, just so it seals up nice. But both sides of that are done. And like I said, you see we've got the bolts down there on the bottom. Just take all those out, be able to take the body off so the chassis can be powder coated. And also in the time lapse, we went ahead and installed the front K-member and the steering rack. Now it's just finger tight, barely on there. I did this so that I could eyeball where the steering shaft is going to go, and you can kind of get an idea. So what I plan to do is right through the frame somewhere in this area, we're going to drill a hole, and I've got a really long drill bit where I can go all the way through that frame, around in through this plate right here. So we'll work it out where it's centered on the driver's seat, where it comes through this, and we'll have a piece of chromoly tubing that welds through there, and then it'll have TRZ's Delrin bushings, and then on each side of that will be a steering joint. And what that's going to do, I think anyways, is keep the steering shaft kind of the farthest out of the way, because it's basically going to just come straight up through here, give us plenty of room on the engine. We'll be able to build our belly pan to where it's inside of the steering shaft, even come up pretty high. I think, and I need to talk with Steve, but I think the idea maybe to put turbos up there, maybe, don't know. We'll cross that point when we actually, you know, get an engine and start working on the headers and where we're going to put stuff. Yeah, lots of stuff to still figure out. But we're checking things off the list, so excited about that. But one thing that we need to add to the list, which I guess this really doesn't have to be done before it goes out for powder coat, but I went ahead, CJ started working on it on the other side, and I'll show you just a second. But I didn't like how this was hanging out beyond where we notched the frame. Now, truth be told, I probably should have bought this K-member before we cut the front end off the car. But we assumed, and you guys may know what happens when you assume something, but we assumed that where that bolt was going to be where the K-member would bolt, and it would work out just so that it didn't stick out any further than that. And I actually had intended to build my own K-member until I saw this one from Racecraft, and I'm like, you know what, that's gonna work. So went ahead and bought it. It's already got the engineering done, saved us a ton of time in having to just bolt this on rather than completely fabricate it from scratch, make sure that all of our control arm mounts were perfectly squared and all of that stuff. So now we are in here, and what I want to do is close this up and support the end of this so that if the car ever wheelies and sets down on this front hoop here, because this will probably be the contact point, you know, when the car pitches down from, say, a wheelie, which would actually be pitching this way. So what we're going to do is this. So she's still quite warm. And basically this is 1/8 inch plate. It's got a base in it to fill in the bottom. Plated it on both sides, and that gives it some extra strength on this front tube, as well as if it ever wheelies, now it lands and pushes right up into the plate there. So pretty cool looking K-member. It's now the lowest part of the front suspension. I was planning on cutting this off, but now I don't have to, since it's already, it kind of gets taken care of by that. But yeah, pretty excited to be moving right along with this thing. And kind of my tentative plan is we're going to be trying to do a video on this car per week, as well as the old Cutlass over there. So we'll keep moving forward with this. And actually, earlier in the video where I was talking about the seats, these go through and weld to the tubes under the floor, and then we silicon bronze brazed them to the floor itself, nice and sturdy. And then these are the seatbelt clip-ins. Got another one back here, one back there, and then the shoulder belts will just wrap that harness bar right there. That's the tentative plan anyway. We'll see where the seat height works out for Val, and maybe we add eyelets to somewhere back there. Not a big deal, depending on how we work that all out. But I do have a little bit more to weld back in here, but that'll be 5 minutes once the body is off, and it'll be easy to get in there and weld that both sides. Actually, no, I've got it fully welded on that side. Before too long, this thing will be down on the ground. And just like most videos, this is what's going on behind me on the...
I knew that was coming. I should have ran off when you brought the camera up. It's after hours.
It is. It's almost 6 o'clock.
Clocked out. Stayed later than everybody else. Clocked out. And now I'm relaxing.
Chilling.
Chilling.
I pick on Eddie a lot, if you can't tell. He loves it though.
I hate it. I hate it. If anybody's hiring, let me know, please.
Oh shoot. It's like that all day around here. But it's a good time. So that's gonna wrap up this video. And like I said, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Gonna be bringing you hopefully a video a week on this car, as well as the Cutlass, and then I'll get us back into really consistent posting. And then we've got some projects back in the back, including this thing that is gonna fire up really soon. Like possibly tonight, my time, but be a couple of days before you guys see a video of that. So thanks again for watching, subscribing, following along. See you guys next time.